I couldn't explain why everything unraveled that particular night. Maybe fate had decided to play a cruel trick on me, but whatever the reason, it hit me like a runaway train. Samantha, my wife, had never been one for subtlety, but I never imagined she would spiral into madness so openly. It was supposed to be an uneventful Friday evening. Our plans were simple, nothing extravagant, just a movie and some takeout, a quiet night in together. But right as we were about to settle in, she descended the stairs in a striking red dress, the kind that belonged on a fashion runway, not in our living room for a casual night. I blinked at her in confusion. "Where are you going?" I asked, half laughing, thinking maybe she was playing some kind of joke. She grabbed her purse without hesitation and casually responded, "Out with the girls." That didn't sit right. Samantha hadn't mentioned any plans earlier. In fact, she had spent the entire day complaining about exhaustion from work. And yet, here she was, in high heels, her makeup perfectly done, her hair styled like she had spent an hour on it. People don't go from completely drained to full glamour mode in minutes, not without a reason. Something wasn't adding up. "Out," I echoed, trying to sound as if it didn't bother me. "You didn't say anything about this before." She rolled her eyes, exhaling as if I were being unreasonable. "Do I have to report everything to you? I'm just going for a drink at a club. It's really not a big deal." A knot tightened in my stomach. Things between us had been a little tense lately, not major fights, just small disagreements. She had been complaining about work stress. I had been spending too much time at the gym, and her phone seemed to be constantly buzzing with notifications. But the way she brushed me off so easily, like my feelings didn't matter, hit harder than any argument we had ever had. I wasn't about to let it slide. "Which club? Who are you going with?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, though I could feel the tension growing thick between us. She turned toward me, sighing dramatically, as if I were the problem in all of this. "Why are you so obsessed with knowing everything?" "I'm meeting some friends. Just relax." Then, it struck me, a cold, unmistakable realization. She was lying, and she wasn't even putting effort into making it believable. The casual way she dismissed my questions, the forced indifference, it was like she didn't care whether I saw through it or not. "I'm asking because it's strange, Sam." I shot back, my voice tightening. "One minute, you're too tired to function, and the next, you're dressed like that and heading out? Who exactly are these friends?" Her expression shifted, but not in the way I expected. She didn't get defensive or try to justify herself. Instead, she smirked, that smug, infuriating look that spoke volumes. "Not that it's any of your concern," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm, "but I need a break from all of this." She gestured vaguely, including me in that dismissive wave. "From you, if we're being completely honest." For a moment, I was speechless. That wasn't just an argument. It was a direct hit, meant to wound. And it worked. Anger surged through me, but what cut deeper was the way she said it, like I was nothing more than an inconvenience. "So, this is how it's going to be?" I asked, forcing myself to stay calm even as my pulse pounded in my ears. "You just decide you need a break, throw on a dress, and leave me behind like I don't matter?" She crossed her arms, her posture screaming defiance, as if she had already won some twisted battle in her mind. "You can't stop me. I'm going." Her voice was sharp, a challenge more than a statement. I stepped closer, meeting her gaze, searching for any trace of the woman I thought I knew. "Samantha," I said quietly, deliberately, "if you walk out that door right now, don't expect me to be here waiting when you get back." But instead of hesitating, instead of showing even a flicker of doubt, she did something worse. She laughed. "You think that matters to me?" she scoffed. "You really believe I don't see what's happening here? You're afraid. Afraid that I'm living my life while you're stuck in yours." That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. "What are you even talking about?" I demanded, but she wasn't interested in answering. She snatched her keys, her eyes glistening probably more from frustration than any real emotion. Then, without another word, she shoved past me, her heels clicking against the floor. With one last look, filled with nothing but cold defiance, she spat out, "I'm going, whether you like it or not." And then she was gone. The door slammed shut behind her, leaving me standing there in stunned silence. For a few moments, I didn't move. I just stood in the hallway, replaying every word, every expression, trying to make sense of it all. Had this just been an impulsive argument? Or was there something more beneath the surface? The moment that door closed, the entire house felt different, emptier, heavier. My mind was racing, but deep down, I knew this wasn't just about a random night out with friends. Something bigger was at play, something darker. I grabbed my phone, pacing back and forth, my thoughts a chaotic mess. It wasn't just the fact that she left. It was how she left. The smirk, the coldness, the complete disregard for everything we had built together. Something wasn't right. Opening her social media, I scrolled through old pictures, scanning every post, every caption, searching for anything, any clue I might have missed. The smiling photos, the carefully worded declarations of love and happiness, it all felt like a cruel joke now. It suddenly clicked. Sam had a close friend, Mia. They used to be inseparable, but lately, Sam hadn't mentioned her at all. It had been months since I'd last seen them together. Acting on impulse, I shot Mia a text. "Hey, is Sam with you tonight?" Her response came almost instantly, faster than I expected. "No, I haven't seen her in weeks." Why? That was the first gut punch. She wasn't with her old friends. So where could she be? I didn't even bother replying. My mind was already racing, my heart pounding as I tried to piece it all together. A club. She had mentioned going to a club, hadn't she? It didn't take long before I figured it out. There was a spot downtown she had been going to with her coworkers, Lux. A flashy, high-energy place, the kind of scene she would normally hate. Too loud, too packed. But for some reason, she had been bringing it up more and more lately. Something about that place kept pulling her in, and I had a strong feeling it wasn't just the music. I grabbed my keys, frustration and confusion battling for control. As I drove through the city, my mind kept circling back to the moment she left. Had I missed something? Was there a sign I should have seen? Had I done something wrong? By the time I reached Lux, I wasn't thinking clearly anymore. I parked on the side of the street, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Stepping inside, the atmosphere hit me like a wall, pulsing lights, people pressed together, the bass so loud it was impossible to think straight. I pushed my way through the crowd, scanning the faces, my heartbeat drumming in my ears. And then, I saw her. She was at the bar, leaning in close, far too close, to some guy. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and had that irritating confidence that made you want to knock him down a peg just on principle. They were laughing together, her hand casually resting on his arm. That same sick feeling from the barbecue crept up my spine. This wasn't just a casual night out. I didn't hesitate. My feet were already moving before I could think. The anger burned hotter with every step until I was nearly upon them. Finally, she noticed me. For a split second, her face paled, like she had been caught in the act. But just as quickly, she recovered, flashing a smirk as if I was the one in the wrong. "What are you doing here?" Her voice dripped with mockery, as if this was nothing unusual. I barely kept my voice steady. "I should be asking you that." The guy beside her glanced between us, clearly sensing the tension but staying put, like he was enjoying the drama. Sam took a slow sip of her drink, completely unbothered. "I told you. I'm out. You're acting crazy." My hands clenched at my sides. "Who is he, Sam?" Her smirk widened. She turned to the guy without hesitation, making no effort to hide anything. "Oh, him? Just someone I met. Nothing serious." And just like that, something inside me cracked. The lies. The dismissiveness. The sheer nerve to stand there and say this in front of me. It all hit me at once. I repeated her words, my voice shaking. "Nothing serious?" My mind struggled to process it. "You're really going to stand here and say that? After everything?" She laughed. Actually laughed, like I was some fool who had been oblivious the entire time. "Don't be so dramatic. You're blowing this way out of proportion." I stared at her, disbelief turning into something heavier. She was treating me like I was nothing. Like everything we had shared, every memory, every moment, meant absolutely nothing to her. The guy still hadn't moved. He stood there with that smug grin, silently watching, as if this was just entertainment. I took a step closer, locking eyes with Sam. "I'm not leaving until you tell me the truth. What's going on?" For the first time, I saw something flicker in her expression, a crack in her usual confidence. But just as quickly, she covered it up, her voice turning cold. "You really want to know?" she hissed. "Fine. I'm tired of you. Of us. Of pretending we're this happy couple. I want more than what you can give me." The words landed harder than any physical hit ever could. There it was. The truth, raw and unapologetic. She didn't care. Not about me. Not about what we had built. She was done, and she wasn't even trying to soften the blow. I stood there, frozen, as she turned back to the guy, drink in hand, acting as if I didn't exist. The noise of the club faded into the background, her words playing over and over in my mind. "I'm tired of us. I want more. How did we get here? How did we go from quiet nights in, laughter, and shared secrets to this moment?" Her standing in front of me, bold as ever, with a stranger at her side, acting like I was a ghost. The shock threatened to consume me, but anger quickly took its place. My vision darkened, my fists tightening. "You want more?" I growled, stepping closer to the guy who still hadn't moved, still had that irritating smirk, like he was watching the best show of the night. "What does that even mean, Sam?" "More of what exactly? More lies? More late nights sneaking around behind my back? More of this?" I motioned between her and the guy standing next to her, my voice rising above the deafening music. "Is this what you mean by more?" She rolled her eyes, as if she was already bored of the conversation, completely unfazed by my anger. "You really don't get it, do you?" she said, her tone laced with exasperation. "For months now, you've been wrapped up in your own world. Work, the gym, whatever it is you do, and you just expected me to sit around, waiting for you to finally notice me? Newsflash, I'm not some neglected pet you can push aside whenever it's convenient for you." I could hardly believe what I was hearing. "Ignore you?" I shot back, my voice cracking with disbelief. "I've done everything I could to make you happy. I've bent over backward trying to keep this marriage together, trying to make it work. And this is how you repay me? By running off with some random guy at a club?" At that, the man beside her, standing smug and confident, finally decided to chime in. "Hey man," he said, his voice smooth, patronizing, like he was enjoying this entire scene. "Maybe you two should take this outside. This isn't really anyone else's business." I turned to him with a glare sharp enough to cut through steel. "You should keep your mouth shut before I make it my business," I spat, stepping toward him. He straightened up slightly, as if bracing for something, but he didn't look worried. He probably thought I wouldn't actually do anything. But I wasn't thinking clearly anymore. I was ready to tear him apart. Samantha, sensing the tension escalating, quickly moved between us, pressing a hand against my chest as if to stop me. "Enough," she hissed, her eyes flashing, not with concern, but irritation. "You're embarrassing yourself." I let out a bitter laugh. "I'm the one embarrassing myself." The audacity of her words stung. "You're the one sneaking around behind my back, and somehow, I'm the one who should be ashamed?" She dropped her hand, crossing her arms, her entire stance shifting into something distant and cold. "This isn't about him," she said flatly. "This is about us, or rather, about you." She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice so only I could hear, but there was no mistaking the venom in her words. "You've spent so much time playing the perfect husband, trying to control everything, that you didn't even notice when I stopped caring. I'm done, okay? I'm done pretending this is something it's not. I need more than this life, more than you." Her words sliced through me like a blade. There was no hesitation, no apology, just cold indifference. But then, she said something that shattered what little composure I had left. "You think I'm cheating on you?" she scoffed, tilting her head slightly as if amused. "Please, I haven't even started." She threw a glance at the guy beside her, and in that instant, everything clicked. The late nights, the secrecy, the lies. It wasn't just about him. It was about the thrill, the deception, the game she had been playing all along. I felt my blood boil. "Started?" I barked, my fists clenching so tightly my nails dug into my palms. "So what? This isn't even the worst part. Just how far does this go, Sam? Because from where I'm standing, it sure looks like you've been enjoying your little escapes more than I ever realized." She didn't flinch, didn't blink. "I'm saying I'm done explaining myself to you," she said coolly. "I'm going to live my life the way I want, whether you like it or not." Before I could even process her words, before I could fire back, she delivered the final blow, the one that would haunt me long after this night was over. "If you can't handle that, maybe you should leave. I'm not running back to you anymore." That was it. That was the moment she burned it all to the ground. The late nights, the lies, the distance, it had all been leading up to this. And now, she wasn't even pretending to care. She was telling me outright. She didn't want me there. I looked around, suddenly aware of the eyes on us. We had become a spectacle. People were watching, pretending not to stare, but I could feel their curiosity pressing in from every direction. And there I was, in the center of it all, my wife standing next to another man, telling me she was done. I took a step back, needing air, needing space. Every part of me screamed to fight, to demand answers, to make her admit to everything. But looking at her, really looking at her, I understood something in that moment. She wasn't going to admit to anything. She wasn't going to apologize. She wasn't going to make this right. There was no fight left here. Without another word, I turned and walked away. Each step felt like I was tearing pieces of myself out of that room, leaving them behind. But staying? Staying would have destroyed what little dignity I had left. I made it to my car, my hands trembling, my vision blurred with rage and confusion. What just happened? And then the truth hit me like a freight train. She hadn't just ended our marriage tonight. She had set fire to everything we had and watched it burn. And I was the one left standing in the ashes. I gripped the steering wheel, trying to steady my breath, but nothing about this moment felt real. My hands trembled uncontrollably, and my chest tightened as if I were struggling to breathe. The whirlwind of events, the deceit, the arrogance, her chilling indifference, spun through my mind like a relentless storm. None of it made sense. How had we reached this point? How had she transformed from the woman I once cherished into someone who could stand before everyone and declare, without hesitation, that she no longer cared? A vibration in my pocket pulled me from my daze. For a fleeting second, I wondered if it was her, maybe to explain, to apologize, to show a shred of remorse. But it wasn't. The screen displayed a message from Jason, my closest friend. Jason, hey man, where'd you go? You good? Jason had no clue what had just unraveled, how the very foundation of my life had collapsed in a matter of hours. Ignoring the message, I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat. How could I even begin to explain? How could I put into words that the woman I had built my entire life around had dismantled it so effortlessly, without a hint of hesitation? I sat there, staring blankly through the windshield, my thoughts a tangled mess. The world outside felt distant, as if I were watching it through thick glass. People strolled by, some laughing, others stumbling out of the club, lost in their own carefree nights. Meanwhile, I sat in the driver's seat, feeling like the weight of the universe had just crushed me. And then, as if things weren't already unbearable, another thought crept into my mind. What if this wasn't the first time? The late nights she claimed were spent at work. The supposed outings with her friends. Were they all just carefully crafted lies? How long had she been leading this double life? Weeks? Months? A year? The realization churned my stomach. I needed answers. Not that she would willingly give them to me, but I refused to be left in the dark, drowning in unanswered questions. I wasn't going to sit back and wonder just how long she had been deceiving me. I refused to let her dictate the story. Another buzz. This time, it wasn't Jason. It was her. Samantha, you really stormed out of there like a kid throwing a tantrum. Hope you got it all out of your system. That text hit harder than anything she had said back in the club. It wasn't just cruel, it was condescending, as if she found amusement in my pain. As if my entire world crumbling meant nothing more to her than a minor inconvenience. But what stung the most wasn't just the words. It was the casual way she delivered them, like this was nothing more than a petty disagreement, not the unraveling of our marriage. My blood boiled. I wanted to reply, to unleash everything I was feeling, to make her see what she had done. But deep down, I knew that's exactly what she wanted, a reaction. Something she could twist and use to paint me as the villain in this story. So, instead of texting, I did something else. I called her. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Just as I was about to hang up, she answered. Wow, finally decided to grow up? Her voice was dripping with sarcasm. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Samantha, I don't care what kind of game you're playing tonight. I just want the truth. How long has this been going on? She let out an exaggerated sigh, as if I was bothering her with something trivial. Oh, this again? I told you, it's not what you think. But fine, if you need a number to sleep at night, a few months. Okay, happy now? Her indifference was staggering. She was admitting to months of deception, of sneaking around behind my back. And she said it as if she were telling me she forgot to run an errand. Months. That's how long she had been betraying me, pretending to be a devoted wife while secretly living a completely different life. My vision blurred with anger. How could you do this? My voice shook, barely above a whisper. How could you look me in the eye every day and lie? How could you throw everything away like it meant nothing? She laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not a regretful one. A sharp, cold laugh that sent a chill down my spine. Throw it away, she scoffed. This was nothing. Our marriage? It's been nothing for a long time. And you were too busy playing the perfect husband to even notice. So don't act like you're some victim. You're just upset because I'm done pretending. Every word hit like a hammer. She didn't see this as betrayal. She saw it as freedom from me, from our life together, from everything I believed we had built. I wanted to scream at her, to tear her down the way she was tearing me apart. But I didn't. She wasn't worth it. Not anymore. Instead, I hung up. I couldn't listen to another second of her twisted justifications. With a sharp exhale, I hurled my phone across the car. It landed against the door with a dull thud. My hands were still trembling, but now the anger burned hotter than before. Not just at her, but at myself. For not seeing the truth sooner. For letting her string me along for so long. For giving her the power to dismantle my world. I sat in the car, staring at the empty street ahead. My mind raced. What now? Divorce? Was this really where everything was headed? Could I even return home, knowing she was likely there, waiting with that smug expression, daring me to react? As much as I wanted to walk away, to sever all ties and never look back, something deep inside me, some foolish, desperate part, refused to let go. I needed answers. Not the half-truths, not the deflections. I wanted the raw, undeniable truth. With a deep breath, I started the car. But I didn't drive home. I had no real destination in mind. I just drove. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, only that I wouldn't find it sitting alone in a dark parking lot, drowning in my anger. This was only the beginning of the fallout, and something told me the worst was still ahead. Time lost all meaning as I drove aimlessly. Hours might have passed, but it all blurred together, the streetlights, the turns, the hum of the engine. My thoughts spiraled, slipping like tires on ice, stuck in the same endless cycle. Home wasn't an option. The idea of stepping back into that house, into the space we once shared, knowing she was likely waiting as if nothing had changed, made me feel sick. I wasn't ready to face that. Not after everything I had just learned. The phone sat in the passenger seat, its presence almost taunting. A part of me wanted to throw it out the window, as if somehow that would erase everything. But no matter how far I drove, no matter how hard I tried to escape, the reality of the situation remained. It was waiting for me, unavoidable. Eventually, I found myself in an empty parking lot near the river, a place I used to go whenever I needed to clear my head. I turned off the engine and let the silence settle around me, staring out at the moonlit water. It was strange how the world outside remained so calm while my entire life unraveled. That's when my phone lit up again. For a moment, I hesitated, bracing myself for another mocking message from her. But this time, it wasn't Sam. It was Jason. Bro, you've been gone for hours. Are you okay? Call me. I stared at the message, emotions colliding within me. Jason had been my best friend for years. He knew something was wrong, but he had no idea just how deep the wound ran. I considered telling him, but where would I even begin? Hey man, turns out my wife has been lying to me for months. I found out in the middle of a crowded nightclub, while she laughed in my face. I wasn't ready to say those words out loud. Instead, I sank back into my seat, letting my mind replay the memories on a relentless loop. Months. That's how long she had been deceiving me. She had treated me like a fool, doing whatever she pleased while I remained oblivious. And the worst part? She hadn't even tried to hide it tonight. No guilt. No regret. Just cold, arrogant indifference. I thought back to all the times I had trusted her without hesitation. The sudden late nights at work, the unexpected outings, the way she became overly protective of her phone. I used to convince myself I was overthinking it, even blamed myself for being too paranoid. Turns out, I hadn't been suspicious enough. The memory of the club replayed over and over, her with that guy, that smirk on her face, the way she spoke as if I meant nothing. She hadn't just betrayed me. She had shattered me. And she didn't seem to care. Then there was the phone call. Her voice still echoed in my mind. This has been nothing for a long time. That was the part that cut the deepest. The betrayal itself was painful, but knowing she had emotionally checked out of our marriage long ago, that was devastating. I had been fighting for something that had already crumbled, and I was the last to realize it. A sharp tightness gripped my chest, and a wave of nausea washed over me. I threw the car door open, stepping out into the crisp night air, drawing deep breaths to steady myself. Everything was unraveling all at once, the deception, the lies, the sheer isolation of it all. I was standing alone, trying to piece together a life that no longer felt like my own. I wandered toward the river's edge, staring out at the dark, rippling water. My mind was a storm of unanswered questions. What now? How was I supposed to move forward from this? Divorce seemed inevitable, but the mere thought of it, the legal battles, the division of our lives, the explanations to friends and family, felt overwhelming. But what was the alternative? Staying with her? Pretending this was just another rough patch we could mend? That was impossible. I could never see her the same way again. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with him, laughing, indifferent to the damage she had done. There was no coming back from this. No fixing what had already been destroyed. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, I knew I had to answer. I hesitated for a second before picking it up. It was Jason. I let the call ring for a moment before finally swiping to accept it. "Hey," I said, my voice rough, strained from the weight of everything I was holding in. "Dude, what's going on? You've been MIA for hours. Are you okay?" Jason's concern was unmistakable. The kind of understanding only a best friend could offer. I hesitated, the weight of the truth pressing down on me. Holding it in any longer felt impossible. If I didn't say it now, I'd drown in it alone. "Sam's been cheating on me," I finally admitted, the words feeling strange, almost foreign, as they left my lips. Saying it aloud solidified it in a way I wasn't prepared for. For months. And I found out tonight. At a club. With the guy. Silence filled the other end of the line. Jason didn't speak for what felt like an eternity, probably trying to process what I had just told him. Then, finally, his voice came through, low and uncertain. "Jesus, man. I don't even know what to say." "Yeah." My voice was hollow as I stared at the dark water in front of me. "Me neither. Where are you right now? You want me to come get you? We can figure this out, man." I exhaled slowly. "I'm by the river. Just needed some air." Jason's voice softened, laced with concern. "Listen, whatever you need, I'm here. We'll figure it out. She's not worth it, man. You don't deserve this." I knew he meant well, but no words could change the reality that my world had just collapsed. "We'll figure it out." But how do you figure out something like this? How do you piece yourself back together after discovering the person you loved had been lying to you for months? "I'll be fine," I lied, my voice quieter now. "I just need time to think." "Take all the time you need," Jason said, though I could tell he was reluctant to hang up. "But don't do this alone, okay? Call me if you need anything." "I mean it." We ended the call, and I stood there in the stillness, gazing at the rippling water reflecting the moonlight. The sound of the river was oddly soothing, almost hypnotic. But even in that calm, my thoughts wouldn't stop. Images of Sam flooded my mind, her smile, her laugh, her betrayal. I had given her everything. My trust, my loyalty, my heart. And in return, she had given me nothing but deception. Months of it. The cold truth settled over me. There was no fixing this. Not this time. This was the end. I stayed by the river for what felt like hours, the chill of the night biting at my skin, though I barely felt it. My mind wouldn't stop racing, my heartbeat pounding in an unrelenting rhythm. Every decision I had made, every moment I had spent believing in us, felt like a cruel joke now. The trust, the commitment, the love I thought we had, it was all unraveling before me, like a film I couldn't pause. I kept running my hands through my hair, pacing restlessly. My emotions teetered between anger and despair. How could she do this? How could she look me in the eye, knowing what she was doing behind my back? I imagined it all, her messages, their secret meetings, the moment she had chosen him over me. It wasn't just about the act itself. It was the deception, the planning, the outright lies. Every night she kissed me goodnight or said she loved me. It had all been part of the same facade. I didn't recognize her anymore. Or maybe, the painful truth was, I never really knew her to begin with. That realization hit harder than anything else. Maybe this was who she had been all along, cold, selfish, capable of betrayal without hesitation. It felt like I had spent years loving a ghost, someone who had never truly existed. The version of Sam I had known was nothing more than an illusion. And that thought shattered me more than anything else. I turned away from the river, walking back to my car. Sliding into the driver's seat, I slammed the door shut, the silence inside the vehicle suffocating. But I needed to think. I couldn't just sit here, frozen in this moment forever. My life was unraveling before my eyes, and if I didn't act now, I would lose whatever control I had left. I had to do something. Gripping the steering wheel tightly, I stared at the empty road ahead. Then, finally, I made the call. I wasn't going to confront her again. I wasn't going to let her see me broken. Wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of twisting the knife any further. I was done being part of whatever twisted game she was playing. Taking a steadying breath, I dialed my lawyer. This wasn't a rash decision. It was the only way forward. Divorce. The word felt final, heavy, but also, right? There was no coming back from this. Trying to salvage it would only prolong the pain. She had already made her choice. Now, it was time for me to make mine. The phone rang a few times before David, my lawyer, picked up. His voice was groggy. I'd forgotten how late it was. But I didn't care. My world was falling apart, and I needed action. David, it's me, I said, forcing my voice to remain steady. I need to talk to you about a divorce. Tonight. There was a brief silence, like he was assessing if I was serious. Oh, okay. Let's meet tomorrow morning. You sure you want to do this right now? Yeah, I'm sure, I said, sounding more confident than I actually felt. I've never been more sure. All right, David responded, sounding more alert now. We'll get started first thing tomorrow. I'll walk you through everything. I'm sorry, man. I hung up, a strange mixture of relief and sorrow settling over me. Divorce was just a word. But now, it was my reality. My marriage, the thing I once believed was unshakable, was now officially over. There was no turning back. Sitting behind the wheel, I gripped it tightly, allowing the weight of that realization to settle in. The anger still simmered in my chest, but beneath it, an overwhelming sadness threatened to pull me under. This wasn't how I had imagined it ending. No one enters a marriage expecting it to unravel like this. But at this point, it wasn't about what I wanted anymore. It was about survival, about pulling myself from the wreckage before it consumed me entirely. After a while, I started the car and drove home. The streets were nearly deserted, bathed in the eerie glow of streetlights. The whole drive felt unreal, like I was drifting through a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. When I finally pulled into the driveway, the house felt different, unfamiliar, like it no longer belonged to me. She was inside, most likely. Maybe asleep, or worse, waiting for me with some twisted excuse for what she had done. I wasn't ready to face that conversation yet. I entered the house quietly, careful not to disturb anything. The place was dark, and for a brief moment, I thought she might have gone back to the club. But then, I saw her. Sitting at the kitchen table, a glass of wine in her hand, her phone lying beside her. She didn't look surprised to see me. Instead, she stared at me with that same smug expression, as if waiting for me to break. Back already? She said, her voice laced with mock concern. I figured you'd be out all night sulking. I didn't respond. I couldn't. The hatred I felt in that moment was overpowering. I could see she was trying to provoke me, to drag me into another fight, but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. Instead, I met her gaze and said the only thing left to say. I talked to a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. For the first time that night, something flickered across her face. It wasn't quite fear, but a hint of surprise, there and gone in an instant. She took a slow sip of her wine, her eyes never leaving mine. Finally grew a spine. Huh? She said, a cold smile forming. Well, I guess it's about time. I didn't respond. There was nothing more to say. This wasn't about her anymore. This was about reclaiming my life. Without another word, I turned and walked upstairs. She wasn't worth another second of my energy. Once inside the bedroom, I pulled out a suitcase and began packing. I had no intention of spending another night under the same roof as her. Not tonight. Not ever again. The weight of everything that had happened still pressed down on me, but for the first time, I had a direction, a way forward. As I zipped up the suitcase, I heard her footsteps approaching. She stopped in the doorway, leaning casually against the frame, watching me. Running away already? She taunted. How predictable. I didn't pause what I was doing. You'll hear from my lawyer tomorrow, I said, my back still turned. We're done, Sam. She stood there for a moment, as if contemplating one final, cruel remark. But instead of speaking, she just shrugged and turned away, heading back downstairs. When I finally stepped out of the house, suitcase in hand, I didn't look back. I drove to a hotel, my mind still racing, trying to process everything. But through the storm of emotions, one thought cut through clearly. I was free. The hotel room felt strange, like a space between my past and whatever came next. The quiet hum of the air conditioner filled the silence as I stood by the window, staring out at the dimly lit parking lot. Behind me, my open suitcase on the bed was a stark reminder that this was real. I had left. The choice was made. There was no going back. Yet, even with the small relief of freedom, I felt unmoored. I was free, yes, but from what? And for what? I sank into the chair by the window, letting my head fall into my hands. I had spent years building a life with her. The house, the plans, the future, all of it had been tied to her. Now, it was slipping away like grains of sand through my fingers. My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my thoughts. A message from Jason lit up the screen. Jason, call me, man. I don't care how late it is. Just call. I stared at the message, debating. I knew I needed to talk to someone, but where would I even start? How do you explain that everything you thought was real had been a lie? That the person you trusted most had been betraying you for months? But Jason was my best friend. If anyone could help me make sense of this mess, it was him. Taking a deep breath, I dialed his number. The phone rang twice before he picked up, his voice filled with concern. Finally. What's going on, man? You just disappeared. I left her. The words felt hollow even as they left my mouth. I'm at a hotel, I added, my voice carrying an emptiness I couldn't shake. Jason let out a low whistle. Man, so that's it? It's really over. I exhaled sharply, the reality settling in deeper with every passing second. Yeah, it's over. A heavy silence stretched between us before I finally forced the rest out. She's been unfaithful, Jason. For months. Maybe even longer. I found out tonight. My throat tightened, cutting me off. Saying it out loud didn't make it any easier. On the other end of the line, Jason didn't speak right away. I could hear him processing, trying to wrap his head around what I had just said. Geez, man. I had no idea. I'm really sorry. Yeah, I murmured, the weight of everything hitting me all over again. Me neither. Not until tonight. Jason hesitated, then asked cautiously, how did you find out? His tone was careful, like he didn't want to push too hard but needed to understand. I closed my eyes, the memory still fresh, still raw. The club. The music. The way she had laughed so freely, her expression devoid of any remorse. I followed her. She said she was going out with friends, but that wasn't true. She was with someone else, and she didn't even try to hide it. It was like she wanted me to see. Jason cursed under his breath. That's brutal. I don't even know what to say. Are you okay? Are you holding up at all? A bitter chuckle escaped me. Honestly, I have no idea. I've spent the last few hours just trying to make sense of it. I don't think it's fully hit me yet. You need anything? Jason asked. I can come over. You shouldn't be alone right now. Maybe tomorrow, I said, though I wasn't sure if I really wanted to see anyone. I need time to process everything. One moment, I thought we were just having another fight. The next, I'm realizing it's over for good. Jason was silent for a moment before he spoke again, his voice steady. I get it. But listen, you did the right thing. I know it feels like the ground's been ripped out from under you, but trust me, it'll get better. She didn't respect you. She doesn't deserve you. I nodded, though he couldn't see me. His words made sense, but they felt hollow. Whether or not I was better off without her didn't change the fact that all I felt right now was loss. Yeah, I said, though it didn't quite feel true. I just wish it didn't have to be like this. I know, man. I know. Jason's voice softened. Just take it one step at a time. You don't have to figure everything out tonight. Just breathe. We'll get through this together. We talked for a little longer before I finally hung up. The conversation had helped, if only a little, but it did nothing to fill the emptiness inside me. I sat in the darkness, staring out the window, my thoughts running in circles. How had everything unraveled so quickly? How had I missed the signs? How had I let things get so bad without even realizing it? But none of those questions mattered anymore. The past was set. The only thing that mattered now was that Sam had made her choice, and I had to live with mine. I stood up and walked over to my suitcase, unzipping it. I hadn't packed much, just a few clothes, my laptop, the essentials. It felt strange, being in this unfamiliar hotel room with no plan for tomorrow, no clear sense of what my life would look like from now on. As I reached for my phone charger, my fingers brushed against something in the front pocket of my suitcase. I pulled it out and stared at it. My wedding ring. I hadn't even realized I'd taken it off. I held it between my fingers, feeling its weight, remembering the day I had slipped it onto her hand, the vows we had exchanged, the promises we had made, believing they would last forever. How foolish that seemed now. I stared at the ring for what felt like an eternity, a surge of emotion rising in my chest. It was just a piece of metal, but it carried the weight of everything I had lost tonight, everything I had believed in. And now, it was nothing more than a reminder of a life that no longer existed. Without thinking, I walked to the window and pushed it open. The night air rushed in, cold against my skin, but I barely noticed. I looked down at the ring one last time, my heart heavy. And then, with a sharp burst of anger, I threw it into the darkness. It vanished into the night, swallowed by the void, just like my marriage. I slammed the window shut and collapsed onto the bed, staring at the ceiling as the reality of it all sank in. This was it. There was no turning back now. The bed felt heavier beneath me, the cheap hotel sheets rough against my skin, though I barely registered any of it. My thoughts were elsewhere, drifting between the past and an uncertain future. I kept replaying that last moment, the ring disappearing into the night, the final severing of a bond that had already been unraveling for far too long. I rolled over, glancing at the clock. 3:42 in the morning. Sleep wasn't coming tonight. My body was exhausted, but my mind refused to rest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Sam. Her indifferent expression at the club. The way she had laughed, as if none of it mattered. As if I didn't matter. The way she had laughed at the end of us. I tried to focus on something else, anything else, but every thought inevitably led back to her. I despised her for what she had done, but what stung even more was her complete indifference. There were no apologies, no signs of regret, just a cold detachment, as if the years we had shared together meant absolutely nothing. The vacations, the quiet Sunday mornings, the whispered confessions of love in the dark, all reduced to emptiness. Sitting up in bed, I swung my legs over the edge, the stillness of the hotel room suddenly unbearable. The air felt thick, suffocating. I needed to move, to remind myself that I was still here, still breathing, not just trapped in this relentless cycle of heartache. Without hesitation, I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside. The cold night air hit me like a sharp slap, but I welcomed it. It was better than the numbness threatening to take over. The parking lot stretched before me, mostly empty, with only a few cars scattered under the dim glow of streetlights. Everything was still, except for me. I started walking, not knowing where I was headed, and for the moment, I didn't care. I just needed to keep moving, to outrun the thoughts that refused to leave me alone. As I wandered through the quiet streets, my mind spun in circles, replaying every moment of our marriage. Had this been inevitable? Were there signs in the beginning that I had been too blind to see? Was there a moment, buried somewhere in the past, where I could have changed the course of everything? But those questions were pointless now. What was done was done. I couldn't erase her betrayal, couldn't change the reality of what she had done. And the worst part? A part of me still loved her, or at least, the version of her I had once believed in. A sudden vibration in my pocket pulled me out of my thoughts. For a brief second, I considered ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. I pulled out my phone and saw a message from Mia, one of Sam's old friends. I had reached out to her earlier, back when I was still clinging to denial, still desperate for some kind of explanation. Mia, hey, I don't know if I should say this, but I thought you should know. I heard some things about Sam a while back, but I didn't think it was my place to get involved. I'm sorry. I had no idea it was this bad. I froze, staring at the screen. My heart pounded as realization sank in. Mia knew something. She had known for a while, but had chosen to stay silent. My fingers, trembling, whether from the cold or from anger, I wasn't sure, typed back quickly. Mia, what did you know? How long have you known? Her response came almost immediately. Mia, I didn't know for sure. There were rumors at work. People saw her with someone at lunch a lot. Some guy? At first, they thought it was just innocent flirting, but then it became obvious. I didn't know if I should say anything. I didn't want to accuse her if it wasn't true. Lunches. So this wasn't just about late nights and secret meetings. She had been doing this in broad daylight, under the excuse of work. My stomach twisted at the thought. I kept walking, my mind racing, my hands typing before I could second-guess myself. Why didn't you tell me? Another quick reply. Mia, I don't know, man. I thought it wasn't my business. I'm sorry. I should have said something. I just didn't want to be the one to tell you if it turned out to be nothing. I came to a halt, my breath visible in the freezing air. It wasn't Mia's fault, not really. But the knowledge that people around us, people I trusted, had seen the cracks and chosen to stay silent made the betrayal cut even deeper. How many others had known? How many had watched me go about my life, oblivious to the truth? A wave of nausea hit me, and I leaned against a nearby lamppost, shutting my eyes in an attempt to steady myself. But nothing felt stable anymore. Not my marriage. Not my friendships. Not even my own understanding of the life I had been living. I needed to take back control. Filing for divorce was only the first step, but it wasn't enough. I needed to confront Sam one last time, not for her, but for myself. I needed to hear the truth from her lips, to strip away all the deceit and finally see things for what they were. Without hesitating, I turned back toward the hotel, my strides quicker now, fueled by a mixture of anger and adrenaline. My phone was still clutched in my hand, and before I could talk myself out of it, I dialed her number. It rang twice before she answered. Her voice was flat, tired. Really? What now? I clenched my jaw. I want the truth, Sam. A long silence stretched between us before she exhaled. We've been over this already. No, we haven't, I shot back. You haven't told me anything. I want to know everything. How long? Who? Why? I need the whole truth. Another pause, then her voice came through the line, sharp and unfeeling. Fine. You want the truth? It's been going on for a while. I don't even remember when it started. I don't keep track. He was just something different. Something you weren't. My pulse pounded in my ears. Something I wasn't? Her tone was cold as she replied, it means I wanted more. More excitement. More fun. You became boring. The life we had? It wasn't enough for me. I stood frozen in place, my mind scrambling to process her words. Boring. She had thrown everything away because she was bored? I swallowed hard, my voice unsteady. You could have talked to me. You could have told me if you were unhappy, I said, my voice laced with frustration. And what difference would that have made? She shot back, her tone sharp. You still don't get it, do you? I had already checked out. I didn't want to mend things. I wanted to leave. She let out a breath, then added with a cruel softness, and this? This was simply the easiest way to do it. Her words struck me like a heavy blow, knocking the air from my lungs. She had never intended to salvage our relationship. She hadn't wanted me, hadn't wanted the life we had built together. Her decision had been made long before I even realized something was wrong. A long silence settled between us, thick with everything left unsaid. It was the kind of silence that spoke louder than words, filling the space with finality. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, I finally said, my voice hollow, drained of emotion. You'll get the papers soon. Good, she replied without a moment's hesitation. That's exactly what I wanted. And just like that, she ended the call. The line went dead. I remained frozen in place, standing in the dimly lit parking lot, my phone still pressed to my ear. It felt as though I had been struck all over again, another blow to an already battered heart. This was it. There were no more secrets left to uncover, no illusions to cling to. The truth stood before me, cold and unfiltered. There would be no reconciliation, no second chances. I turned and made my way back inside the hotel, my body moving as if on autopilot, numb to everything around me. The legal process would make it official, but in reality, our marriage had ended long before this moment. Now, all that remained was the hollow emptiness of what had once been my life.